I hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas. I know I did. I ate way too much, which is what I do every year. So this is my last video for 2020, and I felt as though I needed to end 2020 with something that is basically going to be like, bye 2020, and don't let the door hit you on the way out. I thought, what better way to celebrate the end of 2020 with doing a diseases of history turned into monsters. I sort of came up with the idea after this whole year was just plagued with the unmentionable, we will not talk about it, this virus that happened. I thought it would be a good idea to make a video on all the viruses throughout history over the timeline, from the first most well-known virus or plague or whatever you want to call them, right through to the present, what they would look like if they were monsters. And this is my interpretation of what I think they would look like, and how I came up with the ideas for each of these diseases is I looked at the research, and I looked at what the symptoms were and what they were classed as, and then I started to get images pop into my head of what they would look like. So that's how I do a lot of things. I will read the descriptions of what they are, and then I will let my brain do the rest. And this is what my brain has come up with these diseases over history. Now I'm doing 8 of them, and I have decided to keep it as small as possible. So I'll be doing them on this watercolor paper here. I'm using my second favorite watercolor paper in the whole entire world, this Roy Mac Rains paper. It is a French paper. It is 300 GSM. It's 100% cotton, and it is bigger than an A4, slightly bigger. But I ordered some more, and it has now been renamed to the Micador, which is the parent company. So they have rebranded this watercolor now, and it's now called Micador. So it's still exactly the same, just totally different branding now. So let's get into this this video, and let's draw the most renowned and deadliest diseases in history turned into monsters. Now the first disease up that I'm going to be doing first is smallpox. And smallpox first appeared around 10,000 BC, but the origins of where it came from is still unknown. But there is recordings in Egypt around 1156 BC in the Sanskrit texts. So who knows how old smallpox really is. Now, it can spread from only human to human via bodily fluids. It's very rare that you will catch it via it being airborne. Now, the symptoms include spots on your tongue, in your mouth, on your face, and then they just move all over your body. You have flu-like symptoms, and these spots really do resemble warts. And yeah, I reckon this would be extremely uncomfortable. Smallpox takes about 2 weeks to scab up, and then once that scab forms, you are left with a crater in your skin. So, oh, that sounds terrible. Now, in the 1800s, about 400,000 people died annually in Europe from this disease, and a third of survivors went blind from this. But the thing is, with smallpox, once you catch it and you survive, you will never ever catch it again. Now, smallpox has been eradicated from the world now, and the last known case was in Somalia in 1977, which is great. We don't want this disease. Oh my god, this would be completely awful. So as you can see, the monster that I have done for smallpox is covered in warts and completely represents smallpox in my brain. And I also gave him forearms, was just feeling it. Now, the next one up is the Black Death, and also known as the bubonic plague. Now, this went through Europe and the Mediterranean from 1346 to 1353. Now, this killed about 50 million people, and at that time, it basically knocked off 60% of Europe's population. It mainly spreads via fleas that bite infected rodents, which is, once again, terrifying. Now, symptoms include fever, headache, chills and muscle weakness, swollen lymph nodes, which are closest to the bite area, breathing issues, and this all happens within 3 to 5 days of infection. Now, antibiotics kills it now, and it is still around today, mainly in Asia, Africa, North and South America. So with this drawing, when I thought of the Black Death, I instantly go to rats. So I ended up doing this piece with a sort of a rat type monster, and I made this thing black in color from the name. Like I said, these things that I thought of, these came completely out of my head, and I went with the first thing that I thought of with these monsters when like I said in the beginning of this video, when I read all the symptoms and all that sort of stuff, my brain generates an image instantly with stuff like that. And that's where a lot of my ideas start from. And I run with that, and then I add more on top of that. So yeah, that's how I've come up with most of these things. And I gave it a ratty tail. It just looks like a rat. It looks like a weird kind of mutated rat, basically. And just look at those teeth. Just looking at those teeth makes me feel like I have the Black Plague. So the next disease is leprosy, and this is also known as Hansen's disease. So this was discovered by a guy from Norway. He was a Norway physician, and his name was Gerhard Hansen. I'm hoping I pronounced that right. Now, leprosy is a chronic disease that causes lesions on the skin and also nerve damage. It is a bacteria, basically. Now, symptoms include reduced sense of touch, and for example, that means pain. So you can't feel pain. You get pins and needles, blisters, ulcers, rashes, discoloring of the skin, loss of extremities such as fingers, toes, due to unnoticed or repetitive wounds. Now, symptoms can take up to 20 years to develop for this, and that's frightening. Now, this is only transmitted via human to human, and it can be transmitted via shaking hands, or even casual touching. Now, the origin of this disease was first discovered back in 1873, and it was either Africa or Asia, but it was thought to be a curse until this Hansen guy discovered that it was actually a bacteria. Now, to what I created for this, this one is a little bit weird. Now, I sort of felt like I needed to make a monster that sort of likes to pull itself apart and regenerate and lose a lot of its bodily things, or whatever you want to call it, and then this is how it regenerates. So that's what I sort of created for Leprosy. As you can see, one of them still got the eye left in. It's ready to fall out, but what this monster does, it will grow new eyes, it will grow new limbs, and it will regenerate itself. So that's what I decided to do for Leprosy. This thing looks like a chicken, I reckon. So yeah, it's interesting, this one. Next disease up is cholera, and this is a bacterial disease that spreads in the water or via food. Now, the symptoms are severe diarrhea, dehydration, vomiting, shock, but it's easily treated, but it can kill in hours if not treated. Thing with cholera, it is killed by your stomach acid. So if you ingest it and it gets into your stomach acid first, yeah, that will kill it. But if you take PPIs or antacids or anything like that, you do become susceptible to cholera. Now, cholera was discovered in 1882 in India and killed millions of people across the world. Now, there are still cases today in Africa, Asia, and South America. Now, the monster that I did for this one is not my favorite. I kind of hate this one. But I sort of the biggest issue I had with this one is the image in my head. I just didn't execute it right. I wish I executed it a little bit better. But all in all, it's just this water-bound monster, and you can see it's got the gills in the side, and it looks very disgusting. Next up is the big boy of the diseases, and this is the Spanish flu. Now, this is the deadliest one in history. Now, this has killed around 20 to 50 million people worldwide, but there could be even more cases that were just not recorded due to the fact that in 1918, medical records were not kept properly. So this could blow out to like 100 to 200 million people. Now, this was first observed in Europe, America, and Asia, and the origins of where it started is just a little bit cloudy. Now, it's highly contagious. It can be caught by sneezing, talking, coughing in close proximity to someone who is infected. And the symptoms include chills, fever, fatigue, weakness of the esophagus. Now, it was called the Spanish flu because Spain was hit the worst out of everybody in the whole world. So the biggest thing about this one is there's vaccines today, so no one else will get this flu. Now, this monster that I've portrayed with the Spanish flu is kind of a cross between the plague doctor type thing, and it kind of looks like a bird, a very skinny bird with some weird things going on. And yeah, I was just sort of feeling this one in this sort of way. This illustration is one of my favorites. The next one up is Ebola, and this is a very rare but severe disease, and it is transmitted via wild animals such as bats, insects, porcupines, and apes, and this gets then transferred to humans through saliva, blood, sweat, and other bodily fluids. Now this one is nasty. This one causes severe bleeding internally and organ failure. Now the symptoms include fever, headache, muscle pain, chills, internal bleeding, vomiting, and coughing up blood. Now, this has killed over about 11,000 people since 1976 in the Republic of Congo. That's where it all started. There are still cases of Ebola today, and that is absolutely frightening. Now, this little monster that I portray with it is it's actually he's quite cute in a way, but yeah, he is one of my favorites in this set of illustrations as well. He's just like this little fat goopy monster, and he sort of leaks this fluid that's red from underneath his little fat rolls and it also comes out his mouth. Now it's not blood, it's just what this monster oozes, but this is a good way to you know, represent internal bleeding and hemorrhaging like Ebola does cause, is via what I have with this guy, or what I've put onto this guy. His legs, don't ask me why I've done it that way, but I was just feeling it. Next up is bird flu, which is also similar to avian flu and the swine flu. It's all the same sort of stuff. It is a flu that starts in birds, and it can be transferred to humans and other animals. They worry that this could potentially become a pandemic one day and could wipe out the poultry industry all across the world. Now that is an extremely scary thing to think about, and it could happen. Now the symptoms of bird flu is coughing, diarrhea, breathing difficulties, fever, headache, muscle ache, sore throat, runny nose, you know, all that terrible stuff. Now the first cases were recorded in 1997 in Hong Kong due to sick poultry. Now this is treated today with antiviral meds, so it's all good, and the death toll is still unknown and inconclusive, but they do think that it could be hundreds of thousands of people who have died from bird flu. Now this one is also not my favorite with the monster drawing that I have done to represent bird flu. I made it sort of like a dragon cross bird because that's what I was feeling. I really liked the feet. I thought the feet were pretty cool. What I did with this, I didn't do any limbs or anything because I was just feeling that. And yeah, he's all right, but yeah, it's just another one that I feel I didn't execute as well as I could have. But yeah, he's got 3 eyes, he's got all these little horns all over his head, as well as this curly tail that flows up, and yeah, that is my bird flu representation right there. I also like his little splotches that I put on his stomach area. That was kind of like a little happy accident. I didn't realize that was gonna make that effect, and yeah, I do quite like that part of it. Last but not least, we have COVID-19, also known as coronavirus, and this is part of the SARS family. The origin of coronavirus is Wuhan in China, and it was found in last year, 2019. Now the symptoms are severe respiratory issues, sepsis, pneumonia, cough, fever, sore throat, and some people don't even have any symptoms, which is even more frightening. Now, it has apparently killed over 100,000 people worldwide, and it's nearly ruined country economies. Isolation is needed for 2 weeks after suspected contraction of this virus. Now, the US recorded the most deaths at over 246,000, but look, to be completely honest, I think China's probably got the most, but we don't get told anything. So yeah, I do believe that because China does put a lot of things into secrecy. I heard rumors that it could be potentially 50 million or more that have potentially died in China. That's allegedly, that's, could not be true, but it also could be true. With this monster, this is one of my favorites as well that I portrayed for Corona. And it's just like this, it really gives me gremlin vibes. I just put this big ears, and it's got like this, because what actually happened was I saw on Facebook what a virus looked like, and I sort of took that and modified it into what I thought the coronavirus would look like. And then in the chest, as you can see all those little balls, that is the spores that this monster releases to infect its victims with. So yeah, that is what I've done for this particular virus. Now, hopefully 2021 is going to be a good year where we have no pandemics. I'm hoping that none of these pandemics ever come back again, and that's why I'm finishing this year off with this video, so we give all these viruses the big boot and they never ever ever show their ugly faces again, especially COVID. Please go away. Never come back again. And yeah, I hope that you have a wonderful New Year's, and I will see you in the new year.